if the range cooperates. And,
hello again, friends and loyal WulffPack members. Chaos with you, and welcome back to the Kerbal space program. That's right, we're going to be doing some more science today, and what is our plan? Last episode we managed to go and get a flyby of the Mun. So what are we going to go and do this time? Right now we do have 3 Kerbal nauts stranded in orbit, and they're in a fairly similar orbit, so eventually we're going to go and get those back, but we're not going to do that just yet. What I want to do right now is I want to go and land a probe on the Mun. That's the idea of what I want to do today. So let's go and try and achieve this, because we have got relatively low amounts of technology. And let's not forget, we have only got a 30-part build limit. But we can go and fix that. We can go and upgrade our vehicle assembly building, and this is going to give us a 255-part limit. So there we go, we've gone and done that. So that's great, and we've got our upgraded launch pad. We've got a lot of upgraded things here. So this is what we're going to go and do. We're going to go and try and land a probe on the Mun. But thankfully now we've got a lot more parts, so we can go and actually try and achieve this, because I do feel like the 30-part limit would be a little bit constraining. I have no doubt that we'd actually be able to do it, but I don't really want to risk it. Now we are going to go and send up one of these. We are going to go and send up the Science Junior, but we're also going to go and send up one bit of every other little bit of science collection instruments as well. So a pair of these goo containers. We're going to go and send up a thermometer and a barometer. Oh, that bloody hell. Didn't realise I got 2 of them on there. There we go. And you know what? Doop. Nope. That one. Let's plonk that one there. And let's plonk this one here. There we go. So we can still see the OKTO. Alrighty. Okay. So, in fact, you know what? I can actually move that to somewhere else. Let's move that to here. There we go. At least it's out the way now. And that is all the scientific data all the scientific equipment that we have currently. We don't need any parachutes because the Moon does not have any gravity. What we do need, however, is a way of landing this. So we're going to need some fuel tanks, or a fuel tank. I'm going to plonk that one on there. And let's see, we are going to go and put one of these engines, because how much delta V is that going to give us? That's going to give us 564 meters per second of delta V. I suspect we may need a touch more than that. So, what am I thinking? You know what? I've had a better idea. Let's go and plonk a dinky one on there. We'll also go and put on one of these. And what else we'll do is we'll grab some decouplers. Get a pair of those either side. With some more fuel tanks. Yeah, those are a bit too big. There we go. Just some extra external fuel tanks like so. And then we will go and set up some fuel lines into the fuel tank. There we go. That'll do. Now what will happen here is the fuel from here will go and feed into the central tank. We can go and test this right now, but what I've just realised we need as well is some... we're going to need some solar paneling, because otherwise this is not going to survive the trip up there. So what am I thinking? I am thinking of setting some solar panels very similar, basically something like this. Something like that. Yes, they're clipping. I'm well aware of that. But we're going to go and fix this. There we go. That should supply us with enough solar power to power this thing to get us to the Mun. And what I'm also going to do is drop on one of these little batteries, because that should give us enough charge and enough power to send this to the Mun and be able to transmit. Now, speaking of transmission, we are going to want a antenna, and that is looking good. Now, hopefully, this should work perfectly fine. Now, we do need to go and put some landing legs on this thing as well, otherwise it's not going to survive very well once we get it landed. Now, that should be sufficient for what we need. Let's save this as Mun Probe. So let's save this as Mun Probe 1, and let's test a launch to go and see just how much delta V, well, not delta V, but just to see how much thrust we have. I mean, we're going to go and test this on the landing pad now. First of all, let's check here. Our fuel seems to be working fine. The only issue I've realised as well is we don't have any control over this yet. But anyway, let's test this out one quick thing. So, yeah, that's not what I intended. Alrighty, so we've got this thing set on the landing pad. What we want to do is just to go and test exactly how well this thing is going to work. Now, I'm not convinced we're going to have enough. Oh, we do have some control over it. There is some. We can see it jiggling slightly. Okay, good. So we will have some control of it out in zero gravity. But let's go and pop the engine. It is thrusting a touch, but we have nowhere near enough thrust to go and do what we want. Now, let's have a look at these. Now, these tanks are draining. Okay, good. So that does mean that we are going to have a lot of fuel in order to go and decelerate this thing. So hopefully this should be enough delta V in order to go and get this thing set down on the planet's surface. I mean, total delta V, we've got over 800 meters, well, we had about 800 meters per second of delta V. So I'd say that was enough. Okay, so let's revert this flight back to the vehicle assembly building. And all we've got to do now is just get this thing ready to head out to the Mun. So this should be able to land itself quite nicely. And then we'll be able to just ditch off these two radially, and then we'll be able to just ditch off these two radially mounted fuel tanks on the way down. So that should work. There we go. Retract that landing gear. That should be sufficient. Hopefully this is going to work. We'll just have to wait and see. This could end up being one big spectacular failure. Because one of the things we are missing is... Oh, actually, no, we do have a reaction wheel. We have a small inline reaction wheel. You know what? We're actually going to grab one of these, put that in there, and we're going to go and sink that inside. There we go. So that just means we're going to have a little bit more torque when we are bringing this down. Just a little bit more control over this. Good. Okay. Right. So, what do we want? We want to go and get this all the way over to the Mun. So, what are we thinking? I am thinking we're going to have this as a multi-stage, not just like a dual stage or whatever. We're going to add another one of these just to go and give us enough delta V to get over to the Mun, because that should give us a good amount. Next, we are going for another decoupler. And this is going to be the stage that's going to get us out of Kerbin's atmosphere and into orbit. And what I'm thinking is we'll go for two of these. We will also go for a swivel engine because we need some control whilst we're going up and out. We'll also go for some slightly bigger winglets because this thing is going to be a little bit more top heavy. So we're going to want something that's a little bit more substantial and gives us a little bit more stability. And after this, we'll go for some more coupling with... What are we looking for? I am looking for... Well, normally I'd like to go for some solid rocket boosters, and I think we might end up doing that again. because we'll go for these solid rocket boosters, we will potentially limit the thrust on these just a little bit. Let's see if limiting the thrust about 80% thrust should be good enough to stop us from going too fast. Because that could be a problem. If we end up going too fast, we could damage some components up here if we're going up too fast. Then again, we have got a lot of... Again, come to think of it, we don't need to worry about that. In fact, let's actually go for some liquid fuel instead. Because this one, we're going to be able to go and control our ascent a lot more easily. Throw a little bit more on there and then grab a Reliant engine. Actually, no. You know what? We don't need a Reliant. We'll go for just more swivels. We'll just move these up just a touch. There we go. That's looking good. And then just some spot of aerodynamics to make it look prettier. As well as... What am I after? I'm after fuel tanks again, because we're going to go and put these in something a little bit special. So what we need to do is go and set... Oh, wait a sec. You know what? Let's move that. Let's go to that. Because we've got these here. And what we want to do is have them drop off in sequence, really. So let's extend that out. We've got this one and we've got that one. So the bottom two and the top two, we'll separate those out. So that firstly, these two side ones are going to drop off. So let's grab this, we'll drop it here. Now what this is going to do is mean that this booster here is going to drain its fuel out twice as fast, because it's going to be burning it and draining it out into this one. And then this one is going to be draining out into the central core. Then we're going to be doing the same on these ones, and this is what's known as asparagus staging. Now, apparently this is the most efficient way of getting your rockets into orbit, although NASA themselves do not use this. But, oh well. Now, let's drag this one down here as well, and that is going to be every single one of our things set in motion. I think this is perfectly good. I think it's going to work quite well. Now, I don't think we've got anything that we can do. I think that's basically all we can do right now. We don't have any SAS, we don't have anything like that, so let's go and try this out. So we'll save again and we will launch. Okay, this thing looks kind of funky and interesting. This is... We're basically going to go and see just how well this thing works. So, without further ado, let's go and see just how well or badly this thing is going to go and react. And as you can see already, two of our tanks are draining a lot faster than the rest of them. We're going to slow down our throttle just a touch. Actually, we'll speed it up a little bit until we get to a decent surface speed. Now, the only problem we've got at the moment is because we don't have a decent probe core. This is actually one of the first, and this is the first one with SAS. We don't have prograde or retrograde tracking. Anyway, we're getting very close to having to go and drop one of our first set of boosters. So, and at this point, we're going over 200 meters per second. This is where we're going to want... Oh, wait a sec. I didn't realise that we'd already lost them. So that's a little bit of wasted delta V. Apologies, that's not me. That's me just not paying attention. Now, obviously, I could be doing this a lot more efficiently. And as we can see, this thing is not really very stable at all. So let's revert flight back to launch, because the main issue that I've got at the moment with this is that we can't go and just instantly follow our prograde marker, because that is what I'm trying to do, but it's getting very difficult. But let's give this a go again and see what happens. The main issue is because we're very top heavy with these two fuel tanks. Now hopefully this time around it's going to work out a little better, because we're getting a lot of wind resistance on these two tanks. Potentially it may have been better just to put a larger tank on there. We're almost getting ready to drop off our first set of boosters. There we go, they're gone. I may have missed them again very, very briefly. And again, you can see that we're wobbling just a touch. So we're trying to keep this pointing prograde as much as possible until we're outside of the atmosphere. And as you can see, that is getting very, very difficult to do because this thing is just, it's just not usable at all. Now, in order to remedy this, we're going to have to go and change something on this. And the only real way I can think of doing this is by just adding more fuel to the bottom of this here. Hopefully, it's going to work. Maybe we can add an extra stage to it just to give us more. Actually, you know what? Now, the only way I can think of remedying this is just changing the way we are dealing with this last stage. So we'll get more fuel there, and what I'm also thinking is potentially one further stage, just in case, to give us a little bit of a suicide burn kind of thing. I mean, more than likely I'm going to have over-engineered this thing, as I always do, but I'd rather do that and have a successful mission. There we go. So hopefully this is going to work. Now the only thing we need to worry about now is the fact that I haven't put any landing legs on, so let's just go and put those back on now. Alright, that's the landing legs attached, and let's try this again. So this is going to be probe version 1.1. Let's save and let's launch. Righty, so let's give this a go again. Hopefully this time we are not going to go and screw up. We're going to go head straight up for a little bit, and then we will just nudge over to about 5 degrees until we start hitting 200 meters per second of surface speed. Now the reason I've gone and brought this up is because I want to see in front of me when our fuel is going to run dry. Because last time we were doing this, I completely forgot and didn't notice when that thing had run out, which meant we were dragging additional weight that we didn't need to. Now, here we go. They've run dry, so let's drop those off. Next thing we need to do is make sure we keep an eye on these tanks. Now, these ones aren't draining half as fast because they're only being burnt by 3 engines and not the 5 that the previous ones were burning with. And again, this thing is getting very, very unwieldy. So in order to attempt to fix that, we've gone and added a bunch more fins. So hopefully this is going to work a little bit better. We'll just go and pin our fuel tanks so we know exactly when to go and ditch them. And let's give this a final go. And if this doesn't work, we're going to have to look into doing something a little bit different. Now already this feels a lot more stable with the additional fins and the fact that we've auto-strutted the top to the bottom. That might have something to do with it. Now as you can see here, only one set of tanks is draining because they are burning and draining into the next tank. But technically these tanks are supplying 5 of these engines. And that is what asparagus staging is. And as soon as we drop them off, these ones start to go and drain. So there we go. And again, like I said, this thing's just starting to feel a lot more stable now. Especially since we are making sure that we are pointing prograde all the time. Now, obviously, I would have preferred it to be a little bit further over towards the 45 degrees, but I don't want to push this just yet. Looking at our apoapsis, we're only at 21,000. We want to get that up to at least 80,000. Preferably a little more. But I'm pretty sure we'll be able to achieve that quite easily. Almost ready to go and drop our second set of tanks. There they go. Goodbye, tanks. And our our final fuel tank is draining really, really slowly. Now, we're only up to 60,000 meters of clearance, really. And let's have a look at our arc right now. It's not looking bad. What I'm thinking is I want to flatten that out a little bit. So let's do that. We're still technically a little bit in the atmosphere, so I'm not going to push this too much. Even though the atmosphere is extremely thin out here, we are still going, and let's have a look at our stage view. Our stage view is still perfectly good. And there we go, our apoapsis is just about to hit 80,000. There we go. I'll push this just a touch more, and then we'll just wait until we get a little bit closer. We will add maneuver. And there we go. That should be a decent periapsis there. That's 70,000. We want to get that a little higher. There we go. That should be good enough to keep us in orbit. And we're going to need about... yeah, let's say 36 seconds... 37 seconds of burn time. So we're going to have to start burning very, very soon. In fact, I'd rather start that just a little bit early. Now, right now, this thing is going to be a little bit difficult to maneuver because we've only got a couple of small reaction wheels in the nose. And that's it. We've got one reaction wheel in there and one that's inside of the probe core. But we're getting very close to getting this to the moon. In fact, I think we probably have over-engineered this, but we're doing all right. We're probably going to go and have to stage before we separate this bit, but we'll see what happens. There we go. And there we go. Lost one of our stages. Great. Great, great, great. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why you quick save. Alright, well, at least this time around we have gone and managed to get a better arc. So let's quick save now. Now, I realised what the problem was last time, and it was that two of my engines went and fired off at the same time, which I didn't realise. So that wasn't great. That really wasn't great. But oh well, let's go. Let's basically just sort this out now. Now, we've got 32 seconds worth of burn. We've used more fuel to get to where we are, but because we're at a better arc around, we are going to be using less fuel overall to get into a perfect orbit. What I am going to do is I am going to make sure that we start this burn just a touch early. And the reason for this is because I know we're not going to finish the burn on this engine, and the next engine that we've got is a Terrier engine. So it's much smaller, has a lot lower thrust to weight ratio. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go and start burning at around about 20 seconds or something, just to make sure that we have a little bit of a head start on this. But not enough that we can completely overshoot this. Because I don't think this fuel's going to be enough to finish this off, so we are going to need to stage in between. And thankfully, I have checked, the next stage is completely ready to go. There we are. We are now in orbit. That should be a perfect little orbit. And there we go. That is great. Now, that is sorted. Let's go and quick save again, because I don't want to screw this up again. Now, okay, where are we now? Come to think of it, we are here. This is virtually exactly where we want to be in order to get a encounter with the Mun. So let's quickly test this. Whoops, that was a little bit too much. Yeah, that's perfect. So again, we're just going to go point prograde and we'll just burn, really. We'll just drag out our apoapsis, get it further out. We'll remove the stage view, because for some reason it's not working, even though we have got a bunch of stages left after this. Now, we've only got a rough encounter here. We don't have a perfect one, but that's fine, because what we can do is we can go and just adjust that on the way there. Now we've used about half our fuel to get, well, a little less than half of our fuel to get a little less than halfway there. So this tank should get us most of the way. This next one should allow us to insert and almost be ready to go and drop down. Hopefully we'll have enough delta V to set this thing down nice and securely. If not, we're going to crash land. And that's fine as long as we can send data back to Kerbal. Then again, we could potentially just leave this in orbit as a makeshift satellite. We'll extend the antenna now, because if we don't, we're not going to have any contact back to Kerbal. But it looks like this particular tank should have enough delta V to get us our encounter. If not, we'll have to use just a little bit from our next stage. Alright, we've lost that stage, so let's stage that off. Decouple that last stage before we go and do anything silly. Now this one does have a lot more thrust. Just using the tiniest slivers of fuel, we will go and bring this in a little bit better. I'll just want to swing this in just a touch. Again, as you can see, we're using very, very little fuel here, because our craft is so light that this is going to give us a very, very nice thrust to weight ratio. You may notice that the moon is completely black right now. Yeah, we kind of may have tried this at a bit of an awkward time, because as you can see, the sun is on the complete opposite side. But oh well, we'll do what we can. It looks like we're doing good enough as is, so what we'll try and do is we'll just warp to here. And that is our craft coming in. There goes Kerbal towards the Mun. Now, this little booster that we've got now should be more than sufficient to get us into orbit around the Mun. But the issue I've got now is that we have no... right, okay. We have no solar power. Great, okay, so it's a good thing that I went and saved. And there we go, we've gone and gotten our encounter again. So again, let's quick save, because I don't want to screw this up yet again. And what we're going to need to do is, whilst we're on our way over, we'll just turn our probe around so that we're going to get all of that lovely, lovely solar energy. Let's have a look at... Let's focus. Focus view the Mun. We're kind of coming in quite a ways out. So let's warp to there and we'll do a mid-course correction, because that's going to take a lot less delta V. There we go. So we are at our point now. We've still got our entire electric charge. Good. Now, in order to do this, we're going to have to go and spin this around again to pointing prograde. And I realise I just went the long way round. There we go. This is the prograde marker. This is what we want to go and use. And again, we're just going to throttle this up a little bit. I've limited the throttle from this engine to 50%. Just because I don't want to accidentally overshoot this. We want to get this fairly low. So that, I think, might be good enough. Let's actually just get that a little bit lower. There we go. That is going to make it easier to get ourselves set down. Again, let's flip this around. Oop, wrong way again. I keep doing this. I'll flip this around just to make sure that we get our full use of the sun. I mean, I'm so used to having the solar panels that extend out that I don't need to think about which way my ship is pointing. But right now, that's what we have to do. And next, we're just going to warp here, because the next course of action is to go and circularize. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to have to come down on the side of the Mun that is facing Kerbal. Because if we don't do that, we're kind of screwed. And again, we'll warp a little closer. The only reason I warped further away is because I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to go and point retrograde, which is exactly what we're doing. Now, let's go and capture. This shouldn't take much delta V at all. There, we are captured, And we're going to start slowly lowering the throttle off until we get a nice circular orbit. It's not perfect. We've got 61 on one side, 32 on the other. It's definitely not perfect, but it's good enough. What we're going to want to do is warp over to the periapsis so that we can get, well, basically just warp far enough around so that we can regain contact with Kerbal. Because right now we don't have any protection, any connection with Kerbal at all. There we go. Now we have connection with Kerbal. Our batteries are full. We can go and retrograde yet again and get ourselves a landing zone. Now again, I do have this engine throttled to 50% because I don't want to cause too many problems here. And that looks good. We're going to come down around about here, which is basically kind of thing we want. Now again, until we get further down, I'm going to have to flip this around until we get set down. Just so we can always have, and here's me rotating this way too fast. I'm so used to having much more control over these craft. This is actually quite strange for me. But anyway, there we are. We will warp until we're a little bit close to the ground. Is it going to be safe to warp to the edge of here? Yes, it is. So let's warp over. And look at that. This is basically going to be almost perfect right now. So what we need to do is we need to go and drop our surface velocity down quite drastically. And that's kind of what we're doing now. We need to make it so that our surface velocity is as low as possible. We want to land at around about 5 meters per second, if at all possible. But this particular stage isn't going to be landing with this, so we can burn all this fuel off and not worry about things. But even so, I'm going to wait until we get a little bit lower. Because now we are going to be dropping, considering that we've just, as you can see, we're dropping almost straight down now. And because I can't go and control this, I can't go just set this to follow retrograde, we're just going to speed this up a little touch until we get a little bit closer. There we go, we're virtually falling straight down. Again, we need to just, oh, wait, no, wrong button. You can tell I'm not used to doing this. We literally went and reversed thrust there, which is not what I wanted to do. So it looks like I'm going to have to go and feather the throttle on this one just a little bit. But again, we've got our relative surface velocity down very, very low. And it's at this point I'm thinking that I can pretty much just go and drop that stage off. Get out the way of that one. Whoa, okay. Again, I'm changing the direction in which we're falling because I'm screwing up our descent, really. We want to keep it on the retrograde. I'm so used to just pressing face retrograde, and that usually works perfectly well. Now we're almost falling perfectly straight down. We really just need to follow this, make sure that we stay very relatively low on our velocity. Now we're a couple of thousand meters up, so we can really just go and just let this drop, because we have more than enough thrust to slow ourselves down. There we go, we are falling straight directly down. Our landing area is virtually completely flat. Slow ourselves down quite drastically. And here we go, we can see our shadow. We are coming down, we're doing it, we're doing it! Now this is still falling at 10 meters per second. We will potentially lose parts at doing this, dropping at this speed. But we're still only dropping ourselves down at a relatively low speed. And there we go, we can pretty much... Again, I'm doing it again. It's because I'm not used to doing this manually. We will make it so that we will land nice and softly. There we go. There we go. Probe on the mun. That is awesome. We can get rid of this. We've now got another world first. Well, we've got a bunch of world first. We've entered orbit around the moon, entered a suborbital space flight around the moon, and we've landed on the moon. That is awesome. Now, what we want to do is we want to send back some science. And I've just realised that I should have gone and gotten one of these on the way down. But, oh well. That's 16 science. We will transmit. Yep, sending each of these is going to be drastically dropping down our electric charge. I'm really hoping that the Science Junior doesn't go and put us over our data limit. So let's transmit. Yes, transmit the data. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. We can't transmit the data. Okay, so that's not great. Alright, let's go for this. We'll transmit that one. That was just about able to go and get transmitted. Now the last one we've got is this one. So let's log the temperature data and transmit. And there we go, that was the other one. So, question I've got is, does that have an alternator? I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. Okay, because if that had an alternator, we might have been able to generate the charge, but we can't. And we'll try and, let's review the data, try and transmit with the SAS turned off. Yeah, we can't do it. We're going to have to leave this here to go and get collected by some more Kerbals. Now, what I'm thinking of doing is just dropping this up a little bit. And what I'm after is just observe the mystery goo. Keep that one for now. There we go. That worried me slightly. But there we go. We've now got another mystery goo. Review the data to go and transmit. And that's going to be another 12 science. Yes, transmit. That's fine. There we go. That's our craft landed. There we go. That's great. So let's go back to the Space Center. How much science did we get from this? Now we're back over 200,000 again, and what I really want to get is 451 because I really want to go and upgrade the R&D department. Now we've got 100 science, and this is going to allow us to pick up one of these. What I'm thinking is this may be useful for certain things. It's going to allow us to have the RCS. We could also go, then again, there's a lot of things we can go for here. We can go for better stack separators, tricouplers, and even have the fairings. And that would be very useful. I'm not going to worry about going for that one. We've got more landing, which we could use. I'm not going to worry too much about that. So really, overall, for me, it's really just looking at... Really, this one's the main one I'm kind of after, because we get a bigger inline stabilizer. And we get RCS, so I think that's going to be what we want for now. Because I would really desperately love to get these again. The larger solar panels that track the sun. They would be nice, because then I wouldn't have to worry about constantly pointing the craft in the direction of the star. But yeah, oh well. It's good enough for now, but we've gone and landed something on the Mun, and that is great. Next episode we'll go and get those Kerbals down from orbit, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted the SAS, because I wanted to have some fine control over the pods that I'm going to be sending up to get them. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you guys have enjoyed it. Like it if you've liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and also please consider subscribing to the channel. I've been Commander Chaos Wolf from Sci-Fi Gaming. You guys, as always, have been epic. I will see you soon. And until next time, my fellow Kerbalnauts, keep flying and stay shiny.